Section 5, or Chapter 5, the Chinese name is Ru Li Shi Jian Fen, real discernment of seeing Tathagata. That's the topic, real discernment. How do you discern whether you've seen Tathagata? So, I'll read the passages first. Section 5. Subhuti, what do you think? Can the Tathagata be seen by means of his bodily form? No, Honored One. The Tathagata cannot be seen by means of his bodily form. Why? Because when the Tathagata speaks of bodily form, it is not form. The Buddha said to Subhuti, everything with form is unreal. If all forms, phenomenon, are seen as unreal, the Tathagata will be perceived. We'd like to finish chapter 5 today. It's a short chapter. The first paragraph, the Buddha asked Subhuti the question, Subhuti, what do you think? Can the Tathagata be seen by means of his bodily form? Tathagata means the Buddha. Tathagata is another name for Buddha. Remember, Buddha has 10 epithets, 10 names, and one of the names is Tathagata. In the Chinese language is Ru Lai. Can Ru Lai, then can Tathagata be seen by means of his bodily form? Through his bodily form, can you see the Tathagata? What does that mean? You see, the Diamond Sutra, in the Chinese characters, all these characters are very succinct, simple characters. And when translated into English also, you really have to evaluate every word. Don't just look at the superficial meaning of it. You have to look past it. You penetrate into the meaning. Remember in chapter 2 and 3 and even in 4, sentient beings cling to things having form as the cause. And the Buddha corrected this false view by pointing out the doctrine of giving alms without attachment to form. Giving away alms, citing the 6 parameters as an example, with the first parameter as giving out. Remember the 6 parameters. You should know about the 6 parameters. Charity, morality, endurances, and right efforts or diligence, meditation and prajna. So these are the 6 parameters, prajna parameters that you must practice, and each one has very profound meaning that you should pursue. If you're newcomers, well, you'll listen a bit here and there, and later all these things would glue together. It's just like when you're doing bookkeeping. You don't know debit and credits. You don't know assets and liabilities. You don't know how to do the financial statements. But then when all these assets and liabilities add together, then you get a financial statement. When you work at a financial statement, you work at every individual item. You don't know what the financial statement looks like, but you really have to look at every item first. What is an asset? What is a liability? What is accounts receivable? I'm sure there's accountants somewhere around here. Anyway, why did I always mention accounting? Because I had accounting background. And I have management background. So I always use management. The 6 parameters can be applied to management. If you apply the 6 parameters to management, that's the best, ideal, perfect management. So actually the Buddhist circle, the community, Some people is planning to write a book on how to apply the 6 prajna paramitas to sound management. Anyway, get back to this. So, if you give alms, give charity without attachment to form, there will be merits. Everything you do, good things you have done, or the meritorious things, or the benevolent things that you've done, you're helpful, you're being compassionate, you're giving out, you're considerate. All these things you have done, they won't be forgotten. All these bad things you have done, they won't be forgotten. It's just like keying into the computer. All this has been keyed into the chip. Nobody can take it out. It's right in there. Now, if you've done good deeds, be it just very tiny, puny little thing, it's accounted in your computer of karma. So don't ignore the tiny little good deed that you can do. A phone call to a sick friend. You think that is too insignificant? Sometimes it could be a life-saving call. Don't ignore every little minor good deed. It all adds up. So there's merits for good deeds. And if you give charity without the threefold notion of a charity. What is a threefold notion? You remember? When you give charity, there's a threefold conception, threefold notion behind the giving. If you have attachment. What are these threefold? The giver, the recipient, the act of giving, or the object of giving. You are the giver. You give out $1. You give out $10. You're the giver. You dial this call to a sick friend. You're giving out this compassion. You're giving out this consolation, this comfort to the patient, so that you are the giver, and that's the recipient. Millions of miles away, does not matter. The act of giving, the comfort, the consolation, the sincerity, the care. So this is a threefold notion. And the Buddha said, don't attach to any one of this. You've done this, don't attach them. I am the giver. Now that I have helped someone, I'll have good reward. I will have good compensation in my computer chip. No, you don't have to remember that. You give without condition. No attachment whatsoever. But no attachment, so all these originating causes are formless. Now, if you do it like that, the merits so obtained will be so immeasurable. Remember in chapter 4, it is so immeasurable that it's just like space. Can you measure space? Can you measure north, south, east, west? Can you measure the zenith? Can you measure the nadir? The top, the very top and the very bottom? We can't. So the merits so obtained, if you don't have an attachment, will be immeasurable, like measuring space. And then this chapter 5, the Buddha said, can you see the Tathagata by means of this bodily form? Why did he ask this question? It relates to the previous chapter, because if we always think in our mind that we have no attachment, all the causes that we do would attribute to something that we should not attach, then we'll worry. We'll worry about formless merits. These merits are formless, right? You can't then, because causes are formless, we don't attach to form, and a formless cause would tally with a formless effect, naturally. So in other words then, the causes I have cultivated and this merits will be formless, wouldn't that I lose all my merits? No more merits behind? And also, if that is the case, how come the Buddha has such a meritorious body form? The Buddha has very good form, very graceful, all these 32 attributes and 80 minor marks of the Buddha. All this is because of the accumulation of merits. And how come the Buddha has got good form? A formless cause does not tally with the effect that has formed. Then how come the Buddha has good forms? I don't know if you understand this, but let us try to explain a little further. At this point, we have to know, according to the sutras, the Buddha possesses 3 bodies. This we'll have to know. If you don't know, the Buddha possesses 3 bodies, which are essentially one. It's one body, but it's 3 bodies. And don't think of the body as form. How come there's 3 bodies? I have 1 body, how come I have 3 bodies? You don't think in terms of the bodies in the form situation. No. What are these 3 bodies? The first one is the Dhammakaya. In the Chinese language is Fa Shen. The Dhammakaya. The Dhammakaya is the Dhamma body. This is the Dhamma body as opposed to the physical body of the Buddha. This Dhamma body is formless, penetrating all existence, shining everywhere and enlightening everywhere. And according to the general Mahayana, this is the reality body, the true mind, the absolute existence, manifestation of all existence, the one mind, sunyata, emptiness, the universal mind. That's what we refer to. The Dhamma body is that universal mind, that oneness, that true essence, that reality. In the Yogacara school, this is the real body possesses the pure Dhamma in there. And it is the great, perfect mirror wisdom, prajna, in the Chinese language, Da Yuan Jing Zi. This is the ultimate wisdom. You can't see wisdom, can you? So that's the Dhammakaya, Fa Shen. So we call it also the one body. Dhammakaya means body. Kaya is the Sanskrit language. So that's the first body we have to remember. This is formless, no form. That is the reality, the ultimate. The second body is the Sambhoga Gaya. Sambhoga, Sambhoga Gaya. In the Chinese language is Bao Shen. The Bao called a Ta Shou Yong Shen, Zhi Shou Yong Shen, Bao Shen. So this is the reward body of the Buddha. The ideal body of a Buddha, which is produced after entering Buddhahood as a result of vows undertaken during the practices in the Bodhisattva path. This is the embodiment of purity and bliss resulting from full accumulation of merits. So the Buddha has the perfect, the ideal body with an accumulation of merits. Why did he accumulate such a nice body? Because all of the good deeds that he has done when he practiced the pursuit of enlightenment. This is the Sambhoga Gaya. Everything you do, every good deed. Why are people different in their facial appearance? Why are prettier and for some people are prettier and some are uglier and some taller, shorter, healthier, everyone. How come physically one person looks a lot better than the others? How come they are different? Not because of a creator, because the creator would not be prejudiced against anybody. Their appearance is different because of the karma, what they have done. They are different. You think what you are doing now and what I'm doing now, we are the same, exactly the same? No. Our action, our speech, our thought, everyone is different. So every karma is different. Every body is different. Your Sambhoga Gaya, your reward body, as far as the temporal world is concerned, is all different. Some people look a lot better than the others. Why? Some people have a face that is so kind and so graceful. According to some sutras, it says that in his or her last life, he put up a lot of endurances for bad things. Somebody scolded her, somebody beat her up, and she just endured it and act as if nothing happened, or there's some situations that he can endure without creating mental defilements. Or there's no hatred. In previous life, there is no accumulation of hatred, no accumulation of bad speech, tattletale, or backbiting, frivolous speech. Then he'll be trustworthy. So in other words, all these reward, the merit is because of what you have done in the past. You earned your own ticket, not anybody, which is logical and scientific. If you study hard enough, you think you're going to fail the course? Every cause gives an effect. It's just some of this goes through the three lives, the past lives and present life and future lives. Logically speaking and scientifically speaking, or even according to the theory of probability and statistics. Just take one example. There's so many examples in this world that we can quote from. And I always like to quote an example of a student. You're a student, you're at university. You attend every course, every lecture, you make all the notes, you listen very attentively, you study, you make all these notes. You even study previous examination papers, and you go to the examination, and given that you watch your health, don't get sick when you're writing the examinations, you're bound to get an A. If all these conditions fulfill, causes fulfill, there's no way that you fail unless you got sick in the examination. But I already said, if you build up good health. So I always told my disciples who are Buddhists, I said, who are university students, I said, you want to be an A student, you watch your health too, not just studying. You got to go to swimming, you got to exercise, because that's part of contribution to your good marks. What happens if you study and make all these notes and study, burn big light oils for a few days, and time examination comes, you got sick? No excuse. So you got to maintain good health. And that's part of the contributing cause to an A. So for that reason, whenever you appeared, whenever you've been rewarded, whatever you got here is because of what you have done in the past, including your physical appearance. If you short-live, if you're always sick, it's because you kill a lot of animals in your previous life or in this life. You go hunting. You kill deers and moose, bears, just for enjoyment, for pleasure. You shorten their lives, and somehow your karma be affected, and your life, this lifetime, is short. The other day, we have a group of 4 people going to a hospice care situation where a man is dying. He's about 55 years old, Caucasian. He helped to build up a few homes for kids who are on drugs. He did a lot of good work. He built up 3 homes for kids who are on alcohol and drugs. And there is this one guy who came to the temple, and I can't mention his name, and he said, we really respected this person because he saved my life. I was doing this kind of thing, and I was almost on the verge of my life coming to an end, but this man saved me, and I don't want to see him go. This man is terminally ill, and he's going to die any minute. And we didn't go out that often. We said, and after, because of his sincerity, so finally we determined to go to the man's home. 4 of us. We went there. The man was sitting up with his wife, buried his head in his palm, and certainly he's dying. It's suffering. And at his bedside, there is an altar, a small little altar. And he's practicing Tandra Buddhism. He had a picture of Dalai Lama. So we went in and we performed chanting for him and all that. And he's struggling, on the verge of dying. But somehow his time has not come. We chanted for 2 hours, quite tired, 2 hours. And he's still struggling, not going yet. And finally, we're advised to leave for a little while. And I don't know if the man passed away now. So when I come back, I think, why did he did a lot of good karma? He built up 3 homes, helping kids, and why did he still had this disadvantage of living a short life? It's his own karma, because in his previous life, probably, he had been killing. Even though the karma now is so strong, it wouldn't wash away the previous karma. Had he not been building good homes, maybe he would have been dead already, many, many years ago. I always believe that, and somehow some other monks, we share the same opinion, we always believe that we have some sacred contract within us. You know what sacred contract? Religious sacred contract. And if because of your previous karma, you have to suffer in this karma, in this life, or for example, if I have to be destined for having a short life because I killed too much, for example, just give an example. If in this life I became so kind, I supported people not killing animals for food, I supported people not killing seal, I protest, and I've done everything I can to save animals and give out all my compassion. I attempted to change all these things, and I turned to be a very kind person. And also, I communicated with Bodhisattvas through my chanting and through my learning. And maybe somehow, invisibly, I signed a personal sacred contract with the Bodhisattva who is helping me to live longer. Because I have this mission that I would like to do a lot more. I'm destined to live until, for example, 50 years old. But invisibly, I always chant and I always pray and I always, all by myself, I talk to my Bodhisattva, to Buddha, that if I've been given a chance to live longer, I would do this mission and that mission and that mission. I have all these missions that I have to fulfill. And somehow that is a sacred contract. You got a contract. Then you live longer. So every one of us, we don't know how long we're going to live. But please, build up that contract. Build up that contract to render your compassion, to learn to cultivate your spiritual path, to be a Bodhisattva. And all these Bodhisattvas would help you because they've gone through the same as you have gone and I have gone through before. They know that you're limited in your energy and your power. They like to help out, but you must give words to those contracts yourself. This is what I'm going to do. Condition number 1, I would do this, I would do that, I would do that. Sign, Jackie Jones. And you're doing that every day, through your chanting, through your prayers. Bodhisattvas will be helping you out. Avalokitesvara Bodhisattva, Mandrasri Bodhisattva, Srigapa Bodhisattva, the Buddha, they'll help you out. So you can change your karma. But how many people would be willing to sign a contract like that? They only sign contracts to buy a house, a home, a boat, a car, an employment contract. Or a contract that gives bonding to another person. We call that a marriage certificate. That kind of contract. Well, I'm diverting away from what I'm talking about. So, don't ignore chanting, cultivating, meditation. Don't ignore the 6 paramattha. These help you to live longer, help you to be healthier, help you to energize yourself so that you can render your compassion to others, so that you will be more happy in your life. I can't perceive someone who would be happy if they're selfish, if they're egoistic. I can't perceive that. Can you? You think you'll be happier if you're more egoistic? You're more selfish? I think it's just the opposite. Anyway, what am I talking about? I've been talking about the Dhammakaya and then the Sambhogakaya. Remember the Buddha has 3 bodies? The Dhamma body, the Dhammakaya, and the Sambhogakaya, which is Bao, Fa Shen, Bao Shen. And the Sambhogakaya, interestingly, can only be seen by Bodhisattvas, not by us. 受用身我们没有能力见得到，登地的菩萨可以见得到。We can't see them. Because why? Because of our karma. That body is so wonderful that only with certain eyes you can see them. Why don't the guardian angels who are living in heaven, how come we can see them? And more often we can see ghosts. Because they're wonderful bodies, we're not wonderful enough in our reward to see. Our karma and their karma is so different. But our karma tally more with the karma of the ghosts, the lower realm. And our karma tally more with the animals, so we can see animals. Anyway, that's the second. I don't want to go too detail into the Sambhogakaya, the reward body. Now the third body is the Nimanakaya. The Nimanakaya. Nirmana. This is the body of transformation. In the Chinese language, it's a Yin Shen, by which the Buddha appeared in many forms, seen by sentient beings. This is a model of the Nimanakaya, the carving. It contains 32 meritorious attributes and 80 minor characteristics. What do I mean by that? There's a sutra which laid down all these characteristics in detail. That is the Fo Ben Xing Ji Jing. It contains all this detailed descriptions, and there's a translation by Samuel Beal, translated all these characteristics out. Samuel Beal, B-E-A-L, is a Buddhist scholar. What are these 32 attributes? For example, the Buddha's height is 16 feet. I don't know what constitutes 1 foot in those days. 2,600 years ago, 1 foot is how many inches? I don't know. Now 1 foot is 12 inches in North America, but 1 foot is 10 inches in China. So the measurements are different, but somehow the Buddha's body, according to 2,600 years dimensions, is 1丈6尺, approximately about 15, 16 feet. 42 teeth, even and white. Round head, every part, 32 attributes, so gracious. And that's why when we carved our Buddha statue, we have to go by that sutra. Earlobes coming down almost to the shoulder. And when the Buddha is standing, his hands could touch the kneecaps. When you are standing, when I'm standing, we can't touch kneecaps, can you? If you don't believe yourself, you don't believe me, you stand up and see if you stand up, can your kneecaps touch, can your hand touch the kneecaps? You can't. Your hand's not long enough. It is believed that if you have only one attribute of the Buddha's attributes, you could be the king of a certain country. And also the Buddha's feet is flat. Our feet, the sole is not flat, but the Buddha's feet is flat. The Buddha's voice is different. The hair follicle, the hole, emitting fragrance. So it's 32 attributes and 80 minor characteristics of the Buddha. Then is the Namayakaya, Baoshen, body of transformation. The appearance of the Buddha as seen by sentient beings is this body, his incarnated body, in which he appeared in order to teach the beings of the world. Such body was long cremated and was just an incarnation. This is not the true body. This is the physical body. So there's three bodies. The Nirmanakaya, which is the physical body with all these attributes. Sambhogakaya, which is the reward body, only seen by Bodhisattvas. And the Dhammakaya, the Dhamma body. So the Buddha asked Subhuti, can the Tathagata be seen by means of his bodily form? Why did he ask this? This is to remind Subhuti, as Subhuti may suspect that if giving charity could have a formless cause in mind, then the effect should tally with a formless body. Then how come the Buddha has such a meritorious body? This is to explain, to clear away the suspicion in Subhuti's mind. The Buddha wanted to remind Subhuti that the Dhammakaya has no form. You don't see the Dhammakaya from the form. So I haven't really finished the first sentence. Time's up. Anyway, you know the three bodies. Then let's repeat the Buddha's question again. Can the Tathagata be seen by his bodily form? This is a very important question. In the Chinese language, 可以身相见如来佛? What is this 如来 Tathagata? What is Tathagata? Can we see Tathagata through by means of the physical body of the Buddha? What is this Tathagata? This Tathagata is the real nature. That is the Anuttara Samya Sambuddhi, the complete supreme enlightenment. It is formless. It is the nomina, not the phenomena. How can we see the formless from the form? How can we attach form and see Tathagata? That means you have to be detached from form to see the Tathagata. You understand what I mean? If you attach to form, why are we not attaching to form? We attach to form all the time. We're attached to sight, we're attached to sound, we're attached to taste, we're attached to smell, we get mad with criticism, we only love praise, we hate sights we don't want to see. All these senses, we attach to everything. And the Buddha said, if you want to find the real nature, how can you find it through attachment? This is bad, this is good. I hate this guy, I love this guy. And that guy is a rich guy, this was a poor guy. How can you discriminate and attach and realize your real nature? You have to be beyond that. So there are two perspectives. Can you see the real nature, which is formless, from form? From form, if you attach to form, can you see the real nature of things if you attach to form? The answer is no. As you have attached to the notion of form, you have attached to the four fallacious notions. What are those four fallacious notions? Attachment to the ego, personality, beings, and what? Lifespan. 我相, 人相, 众生相, 受解相. 我相, the four fallacious, egoistic concept. So the answer is no. We can't see real nature. We can't see Tathagata by means of attaching to form. We can't see it. Only by removing away from form. No. So the answer is no. That's the first answer. The second answer is, can you see the real nature from form? The answer is yes. Why? If you do not to the notion of form, that is, if you do not have attachment to the four fallacious notions of ego, personality, beings, and lifespan, then you can see the Tathagata. You cannot attach to form, and yes, through form you see it. You don't reject form. You don't negate form. You don't hate forms. You understand what I mean? On the one hand, yes. On the other hand, no. Wow, this is philosophical. Can you see nationalism and the love of Canada through the flying of the Canadian flag? Can you see the patriotism, the nationalism of all Canadians through the hoisting of the flag? The answer is no, it's just a flag. It's a piece of cloth. It itself is meaningless. But can you see that nationalism through the flag? I said, yes. If I see through the material, look past the material, and evaluate the spirit of this nationalism, then I realize that nationalism through the hoisting of the Canadian flag. Don't reject it. Don't hate it. Don't hate forms. Don't deny forms. And yet don't attach to it. Some people say, well, it's formless. I don't have to help. I don't have to do anything. It's formless anyway. No, it's through helping. And some people say, don't attach to compassion. You're attaching to compassion. No, by rendering compassion, I'm detaching from compassion. You see the difference? How can you understand Buddhism by removing yourself from life, locking up yourself in the room, studying all the time, and you think that you can lock yourself for 3 years in a room, studying all the time and doing all this, and you get enlightenment? Only for some people. In a lot of cases, for certain people, they get their enlightenment right there in the group. When they're in the world, not outside the world. Different people have different capabilities and different environments. Don't restrict it for them. Don't say this is the way you should go. Because this person locked himself up in 3 years in a room and he somehow got enlightened, and that you should do the same thing. No, everyone is different.